but do not worry too much about tomorrow in a way that you just become stuck and fixated in what's going to happen tomorrow.
That verse that actually says, you shouldn't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow has its own worries, but instead, I don't know what it says. Hey guys, I hope you're doing well. Welcome back to another video. As you can see, today we've got a very special guest. My husband is in the building. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi everybody, it's Makhubele here. I'm the husband, and finally I'm here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's taken a lot of convincing.
A lot of convincing.
Yeah,
but anyways, I'm here. So let's go.
Yeah, happy to have you here. Hopefully you being here is like opening up the floor for other guests to come as well. Now that the man of the house has blessed this platform, maybe other guests will come in as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So we are talking about flow and control. And this comes from a conversation that Ntsako and I were having yesterday. I don't even remember where we started and what we were talking about, but it ended up being a conversation about how, sometimes in life, we have the urge to want to be in control. And there's nothing wrong with just going with the flow sometimes. I guess you guys would have picked up in the last few videos that I have been a little bit more anxious than normal. And I guess I've been making those videos for myself. And in some of those conversations with Ntsako, I guess the nice thing about being married is you have free therapy at home. It's just been, being pulled back and getting to understand the importance of not being in control sometimes. And so that's what we're going to speak about. I think between the two of us, I am a lot more stress balls type of person. I'm a lot more anxious. I need to learn how to let things be. Tago, on the other hand, I think does better than me when it comes to, all of those different things.
Yeah, I think I'll take the credit.
Yeah, no, I think
I'll take the credit. Yeah, I like going with the flow. I like letting things go out of hand a bit, I guess. I don't know if go out of hand is the word, but just let things flow. I don't lean too much on the controlling anything that really comes my way. But I guess process, from my profession, like I studied architecture, so the process, like getting to design maybe the best house or building or whatever, it starts from just disaster. You get what I mean? And yeah, I think maybe I would give credit to that to some degree. So
I wonder if actually our different professions have to do with, that, I am an accountant. So, and I mean, I guess the nature of the job is that everything is usually urgent. Everything, even if it's not really a matter of life and death, we do tend to make a lot of things a matter of life and death. Whereas in architecture, it's about grace and it's about process. And I guess also trusting the process. You're bringing something from nothing, and you trust that in the end it's going to be beautiful.
Yeah, and you don't even know where you're going sometimes. You get to a point sometimes in a design where you're like, okay, I think I found the solution. And then you sleep, you wake up tomorrow, and you look at your design like, maybe this is not the right solution, and then you then change it up and you do something else. But that's part of the process, right?
And I guess, okay, so let's actually take it a step back. What do we mean by flow and control?
Okay, so for me, I mean, flow, I understand it like, I think yesterday when we were speaking, I actually made an example. It impressed me as well because I don't know where it was coming from.
Yeah.
But I think it impressed me because I think when I looked at you, I'm like, okay, she's impressed.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, cool. Maybe I'm on the right track with how I understand it. So basically for me, like looking at life and a river actually, like the river being a representation of life itself. So the river flows. Along the way, there are different obstacles. You get what I mean? Sometimes the seasons change and then the river will flow faster. Sometimes it would look much clearer, sometimes maybe dirty and whatever, right? So I think for me, flow, it's that flow, the representation of life itself will go through different journeys and we'll have to make decisions in those different journeys. And sometimes your journey will literally have you hit a rock and you get stuck there, or you could hit a rock but eventually maybe a huge, I don't know if a river has waves,
Yeah.
maybe a huge current will come and then hit that rock with you on it, and then you continue in your journey, you
Yeah.
know. So yeah, so for me that's how I understand, and I try to explain flow.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if I already said a lot. I hope I'm not confusing anyone.
Yeah.
But control, when I speak about control within the, I want to speak about it within the flow. Control within life, right? There are things that you can control. I mean, like you are in control of your decisions, right?
Yeah, I think you're already touching on the importance of balance, which we'll touch on a little bit later. But from what you're also speaking about, like it seems like someone who trusts the process and trusts the river as live. I understand then how you can be, a lot more relaxed and a lot more open to possibilities, because even as you speak about it, if you happen to be to land somewhere and you're able to grow from that, I think the grace that just comes with understanding that life will work out and it'll happen as it's supposed to happen, whatever you do or whatever you don't do. Now,
Yeah.
even saying that, actually something in me was like, oh, I don't know. 'Cause and I think, I think I'm a person that is a lot more controlling and a lot more wanting to be, like I've planned something, this is what I want to go for. And I guess with that also comes being impatient. I think, when you plan something out and you've got all the steps that you need to take, and you've got all the ways that it needs to look, when it doesn't go that way, then not only are you anxious because it's not coming fast enough, you are impatient. And that obviously has its drawbacks as well.
So yeah, I think if one decides to be or tries to be in control of something, it's I can imagine that, and which like when I talk about flow, it's not that maybe there's no control. I mean, like you plan things, and then you get to a point where you're like, okay, it's not going as planned, and it can be frustrating, especially when you also have timelines. Timelines are very important in every planning, like if you have like a goal, this year this is what I want to do, and it doesn't happen. You get that? I mean, you can get frustrated, and if you are really that person that really wants to be in control, it can frustrate you to a point where you can't even see a way forward beyond that point. You're like, okay, I didn't manage to do this, so I failed,
Sounds like me. Sounds very
so
much
I
like
failed.
me.
But I think, I don't know who said this. Someone said failure is actually an opportunity to grow. If you didn't achieve something this year, you probably then have a better chance of achieving it next year.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not ever really failure. Like now, it's the end of the world, and you can feel like it's the end of the world, but maybe not, or maybe actually your failure right now can be maybe a blessing in disguise.
Yeah.
So that maybe the timing maybe was not right, and then when the time is right, things will happen the way they should. And I think that ties now to the flow that I'm talking about, that you can fail, it's part of the process. You go through challenges, it's part of the process. You go through struggles, it's part of the process, but you'll always live beyond that, right?
Yeah.
And we've seen people live beyond situations, and you get inspired by them now, at the end of the day, being where they are, through the struggles. And I guess it's all about that. You can never be really in control and have things go your way all the time and without any disappointments.
Yeah, but I guess, even as you were speaking about failure, I guess it goes to the, different brain types that we have. Because a big goal of mine last year was to learn how to fail. It sounds silly, but as someone who, you've gone through life passing, maybe even passing with like the highest mark, you never really know how to fail. And when you start getting no's in life, you also don't know how to handle it because you haven't practiced handling it in the past. So even in what you're saying, that failure is not necessarily, it's not death. It's not the end of it. For someone who is not too much in their head, and for someone who's not trying to control life so much, it sounds simple that failure is not the end. But for someone like me who struggles with being in control, then failure does seem to be like the end. And, it takes putting yourself every day, maybe not every day, but it takes putting yourself in situations that allow for you to practice hearing no, to allow for you to practice not getting it right the first time. And obviously you can make it in a way that's comfortable for you, in a way that is not, the stakes aren't too high for you. But instead of going for perfection, how do you just achieve good enough, and see how that makes you feel? If there's shortcomings sometimes, and again, like I said, a lot of these conversations that I'm having are really directed to myself, because I do need to hear that, because I am struggling with that. But yeah, you touched on failure, and I think it's just a reminder for me, and I guess someone else who may be like me, that sometimes you just need to practice. You just need to practice failing. You just need to practice hearing no, time and time again.
Yeah, I think you're right there. Sometimes you just have to put yourself in that situation where you are open to failing. Like you're never gonna approach something with failure in mind, right? Like, okay, I'm gonna do this so that I fail, but do not worry too much about tomorrow in a way that you just become stuck and fixated in what's gonna happen tomorrow. But and if literally in most cases you get it right more than failing, then great.
But you know
But
what I think that means?
being open-minded
Yes.
about the idea of failing, then you receive it much better, I guess.
I think also when you're used to getting things right, it also limits the risks that you take, because then you do things that there's a high likelihood of you succeeding in it, and so then you don't put yourself out there a lot more often. You only go for ideas that are definitely not going to work. So I don't want to say you operate within your comfort, but you are less likely to take bold and riskier decisions.
Yeah, the fear of failure, it's a thing, like literally just going for the easy things, and then you go for the easy things, the likeliness of you failing are way lower than if you go for the risky things where you can fail. But and the other thing is, if you go for the risky things, the rewards are much higher.
Obviously, risk is relative. Your idea of risk won't be my idea of risk. And your idea of easy won't be my idea of easy. But I honestly do agree that you could be limiting yourself to things that seem easy to you. And, especially when other people are also looking in and be like, oh, this is difficult. How are you doing it? But sometimes it could be easy for you. And because you don't want to try the thing that you really want to try, you're not bold enough to do that. And I think going back to flow versus control, a big part of control comes with not being open to embracing uncertainty, which I guess flow, and you're going with the flow, you have already embraced the uncertain, I feel. You don't know what's necessarily going to happen tomorrow. You don't know what's necessarily going to happen, when you take a certain action. And sometimes even the idea of not knowing what will happen could be the thing that actually excites you. Whereas if you're someone who wants to be in control, you're more likely to want to go for the path that's laid out. You more likely want to, control the variables that you can control. And I think that could limit somewhat the enjoyment and fulfillment that you could end up getting out of life.
Actually, when you say not really worrying about tomorrow, right? We know the passage that talks about not worrying about tomorrow. So from that standpoint, right? I think today a lot of people worry about tomorrow. We worry too much about the future, and good and well. I mean, like the future is really, you can worry about it. I think it's normal. I mean, to worry about it. But I think we shouldn't worry too much about it. We need to leave room for things to just happen. Don't worry too much about it. Do what you can right now. Obviously, set your goals. You know what you're working towards. But do not worry too much about tomorrow in a way that you just become stuck and fixated in what's going to happen tomorrow. Maybe just work on the process. Be in the process, like then the tomorrow will happen. I mean, like the goal that you've set, you'll get to it. But the journey, embrace the journey. It's about embracing the journey and the process, I think.
Yeah,
You know?
sure. That's actually, I mean, we look at a lot of things as if it's just like ideas, but if you want to take it back to our beliefs, that verse that actually says, you know, you shouldn't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow has its own worries, but instead, okay, I don't know what it says. I don't know where I was going with it.
No, you know what? I didn't even
wanted to-
pick up if you were not going with the exact verse or what. I was like, okay,
No.
you know what?
I feel, okay, I'll find it. I feel like there's an instead there. No, but then I wanted to link it with one of my favorite songs, and I think it's many of our favorite songs. Gyra, You're Enough. If it dresses the lilies, if it looks after, you know, the trees, the plants, how much more is it going to look after after us? I think, you know, we try play God in a lot of ways. Those of us that want to be in control. I think, yeah, when you mentioned that, it just took me back to even the verse that says many are the plans of the man, but God directs or something. I'm sure there's a verse that says that. What does it say?
What? About something about
We need
let
to
your
go
will
to
be
church.
done. No, something. Okay, wait.
What?
Okay, wait. I think it goes like something about my
Many
will
are
not
the
being.
plans of the man.
No, man. Something about your will not being as important as God's will. Something.
But
Something
that's not
like
the
that.
verse that I'm talking about.
Okay, but
So we need to go to
but do you
church in
know-
this family.
do you know? But do you know that part where like your will, like let your will
Not
be done, as in like
Our Father
my
who art
will.
in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy
You know what?
kingdom come, let your will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
Oh, is it? Okay, never mind. But okay,
But the point
Yeah.
is, the point is we plan.
Yeah.
But going back to the idea of the river being life and that flow that is important, even though we plan, even though we pray, the planning and the praying is not necessarily so that life can change. It is so that how we go through life can change. You know, if I plan, I feel like I'm a lot less anxious. I feel like, you know, because I have a to-do list for the day, I have a to-do list for the year, then I feel like I am in control. But I don't think it necessarily changes the direction that the river is flowing in. It does more to help me cope with the world and cope with my world at least than it does to change how the world is supposed to go.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I think we've actually covered a lot of the things, and I like how even in the conversation we're picking up on the need for balance. And I do feel that I was a lot more critical of myself because it's things that I'm working through. I think I'm working through wanting to be less in control, especially when it comes to my career. I'm working through wanting to trust and, you know, to not obsess about how things play out. And to also, you know, the thing with being in control, we think you're in control and so you're planning things over, but the fact that it limits just how much bold decisions and actions you're able to take, because everything must be laid out. You must over calculate, you must over mitigate before you can actually just sometimes go into the unknown. You know, sometimes just really go for it and see how it turns out. You know, I think that's the one thing that I'm really taking away from this.
Cool.
Okay, so I want us to look at I think we've already touched at the benefits of, you know, going with the flow. We've touched at the benefits of being in more control and planning. But I want to focus on how we can achieve balance between going with the flow and being in control and wanting to be in control. And I hope from the conversations you guys also pick up that we're not necessarily saying one is better than the other.
Yeah.
I think at this point in my life, I do think I need a lot more flow, but I'm not necessarily going. I think it also depends on where you are. If you're someone who's a lot more relaxed and maybe you don't even know what you're waking up to do tomorrow, maybe you also do need some control in your life. But if you are someone who's compulsive in, you know, the decisions that you take and in how life must go out, and you don't know what to do when things don't work out the way you wanted them to do, maybe you need a lot more flow. And so we're going to look at some of the things that we think can help in achieving that balance. So the first thing you can do to achieve balance between flow and control is to set goals, but to remain open to new opportunities. And I think we've already touched on this.
Yeah, I think it's always important to set your goals. Know what you want to achieve at the end of the day. you go through the process and then it will happen.
Yeah.
I think, that's
Yeah.
how I would look at it in
Yeah.
that sense. Yeah.
Yeah. I like the idea that you set the goals, but you're not so rigid that if something else comes along the way, you're like, well, this was not my goal. This was not the initial thing. Remain open to opportunities. Even as I say it out loud, I understand that it's something that I struggle with because I've got the goal.
No,
Yeah.
but you know what? The funny thing is, you're saying you struggle with it. You struggle, yes, in the process of it, but I think you're on the right track. Like you set your goals and you are working towards your goal, but I guess it's that thing of embrace the process. Do not dwell too much on, oh man, I didn't achieve this now. Okay, so tomorrow I haven't achieved it now. Maybe it's more of be more okay about waiting for it because you are on the right track. But
Yeah.
I think you beat yourself up too much.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
though, even as you're saying that, processes come up a lot of times during this conversation. I also like the idea of, if you're driven by purpose, which I think is how I look at my goals. If it's true purpose, and it shouldn't matter how it comes, because then if you look at it like that, if you're like, okay, well, it's not that I want X. I want something that benefits people or benefits me in this way. It could be X, it could be Y, it could be Z. But if you're already open to, the ideas that this is the objective, how it's met could be different or could come in different shapes and forms. I think that's sort of where I am now getting to. Whereas initially it was like, you know what, this is what I want.
Exactly.
And this it must come just in
Exactly.
white. This is exactly what it is.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Again, the next one is to prioritize, but to remain flexible.
Yeah, I think we need to. I mean, yeah, the prioritization of things. I think that's something that I could say that I'm not yet there as well on my side, but it's something that you always would bring up, especially now that I'm doing my own business, like it's about, you need to prioritize what to focus on. And,
Why
why don't you
prioritize?
You need to know what's more important here, No, that's you in a way. Or
my
maybe
gosh.
that's how I see how I receive
No
it.
ways.
But yeah, I mean, and I've gotten to a point where I've gotten much better in prioritizing things, and yeah, but still remaining flexible because in other things I don't even say I'm prioritizing for this. Sometimes you have to write it down. You have to write down what needs to go on top and then what comes last. But sometimes you don't go exactly by the list.
Yeah.
So that's the flexibility
Yeah.
that can come through. So yeah.
Just because you mentioned list, I've actually, the older we get, so this is my last year of 20s, and you're already in the third floor. You're already like a 30-something-year-old person. And I've just realized how these days lists are not about wanting to be productive. It's just that if you don't write it down, you will forget.
Yeah.
Well, that is, I guess it comes with growing. Like there's so many
Yeah.
things that you're juggling. There is kids, there is work, there's a lot of things that I found. If I don't write it down,
Definitely will forget.
yeah, it's not getting done. The next point is to practice self-awareness. I think it's already what we were saying, just knowing where you stand on the spectrum, knowing where what you have a bias towards. I have a bias towards control, and just being aware of that. And when I'm faced with a decision, looking at it from that spectrum, looking at it from that lens, am I just giving into my compulsive need? Maybe not compulsive, it's not that bad, but am I giving into my need to want to be in control? Or, is this something that actually I shouldn't mind too much about? Okay. And then the next thing is to learn to delegate. And delegating does not necessarily come in the form of you've got subordinates or people that you work with at work. It can also be in general spheres of life. When you have a home and you've got kids and you've got work that's demanding, sometimes delegation looks like being like, hey babe, you pick up the kids today, or hey, do you cook today, it's not necessarily in the sense of work, but it's just about allowing a person to get something done for you and trusting them to get it done for you without necessarily needing to be in control.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I mean, otherwise, you explode. I mean, like, you can't do everything.
Yeah.
You can't do everything by yourself, most especially in a family's setup. I mean, when you have, like, it's you and your wife, you need to delegate. I mean, because sometimes you want to do everything, and sometimes it could be because maybe you don't trust someone to do it the way you go about it, or maybe the best way compared to how you would go about it. But sometimes to just trust that they will do it. It's very important, even if they don't do it exactly the way, but they'll do it. I mean, like, sometimes it's about just getting the thing done, the how and the quality of it, maybe that's not the most important thing. And that so then prioritization comes in.
Yeah.
The things that are high in your priorities, maybe you're better off doing them yourself. And then the other things you can then delegate so that you are not too worried about them.
Yeah. And then the next point is to trust the process. I think we've already spoken about this. But, let the river do its thing sometimes, and this is something that I absolutely struggle with, trusting the process. But I must say, I think I'm getting better. I don't know if it's okay. That was not convincing. I think I am getting better.
I do agree. You are getting better at it. You backslide sometimes, but you're getting better at it, man. I mean, like, and you should be, proud of yourself and be more forgiving of yourself, and not think that you're always not doing it right. Because sometimes we just beat ourselves up for nothing, to be honest, and you just stress for nothing, because I think you've been doing way better. Way better. So,
okay. And then embracing uncertainty. Again, this is another one that we have already spoken about, but how do you really see life for the fullness of it if you are looking at it from the context of what you already know about it, from the context of what's already sure, you know that you go to preschool, you go to, the different schooling, and then every year or second year you get a promotion, and that's, you stay with one company even. I think, especially for those of us who like to be in control, embracing uncertainty is very important, because then you get to see what else is possible. It goes very, very well with remaining open to new opportunities. And sometimes just following the question. I've been saying this a lot recently, that when you have a question or when you're curious about something, that's what life is about. You owe it to yourself and to the fullness of your life. Just try it out. See what's behind that door. And if it's more questions that are behind that door, then again, take the next step towards answering that question. But I think if we are wanting to do things from the lens of what we know, from the lens of, okay, you live and then you die, then what really is the point of life?
Yeah. You can't be certain about tomorrow, right? You can't be too sure about tomorrow, that you wake up in the morning and all these things, by grace, you wake up in the morning. You may not wake up tomorrow morning, so it's you just need to embrace and accept that that's the reality of life. Tomorrow is an uncertain thing, so just live life the best as you can, but like I said, you can never not think about tomorrow. I mean, that's the reality. If maybe we were monks, apparently they don't worry too much about tomorrow.
That leads very nicely to the next point that I wanted to make, which is to practice self-care. To care for yourself physically and emotionally, and to find that balance and center within yourself.
Yeah.
And I guess you've already spoken about it by
Yeah.
speaking about monks and just that
And-
meditative stance.
Yeah, I was about to bring that up, that you bought a yoga mat
Yeah,
and you were like, apparently it works.
yeah.
And you've been trying out, but I never, like every time when someone says I'm doing yoga or meditation,
Yeah.
it's always in a peaceful space where
Yeah.
there's no noise, but
Yeah.
you do it in a really busy area where like we just come in and out in the room.
I need to lock the
The
door.
kids will, even if you knock the door though,
Yeah,
they
someone will
running
knock.
around and maybe you need to go somewhere in the mountain where
No. No, but you know what? You're not necessarily wrong on the piece of it. Because I was thinking, must I maybe wake up early to do it, or must I do it when people are sleeping? But I think what it also teaches you is because there's actually a day where I was doing it and Jose was literally behind my back, and I was like, you know what? You're able to do it, and you are canceling out the noise.
in my mind I was like, how is this thing working out? I mean, like how do you even continue when
yeah.
yeah. But anyways, I think self-care. It's a good start. I mean, the yoga mat is a good start.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. Maybe do it when everybody's not around, like people are sleeping. Maybe you get more out of it. Meditation, I think it's praying basically. When you're in prayer, in the middle of a prayer, you don't want people speaking in your ear. You don't want people, poking you. So maybe you get more out of it. And literally, not the more you meditate, I do believe and I hope that we get to appreciate life and embrace uncertainty and be patient with ourselves and all of those things, because I mean, I think it's the more natural thing that we should be able to do. Meditating, we don't have time to do that anymore.
Doing nothing, actually.
We need to do that, a lot.
What's your idea of self-care?
Self-care, having time for yourself. Like I always complain when it comes to weekends, where like I try to have my own space and it's not easy. Like there are errands and there's just,
you're a dad of two.
Like there's a lot of things to do, and sometimes it's work. You have to work. Because if you don't work, tomorrow what will happen? I won't get paid. Those kind of things.
Especially if you work for yourself.
So sometimes maybe, and it's something that I also need to get into and respect that, and have everybody in the house respect that. And sometimes it's about letting people know that when you want your time, or maybe sometimes it's about going out of the space where it's just busy and have your own space and basically just be yourself, just allow yourself
be a
to
human
be yourself.
being.
Yeah, just be a human being, and not a human doing all the time.
Gosh, this life, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, but anyways,
Yeah, I think that's a nice way to end it. Nice place to end it. I hope you guys did enjoy this, and obviously there's lots more to talk about. So if we want Nzago to come back and talk to us, then let's let him know in the comment section. But I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you in the next one.
All right.
Bye.
Ciao.